My mother had a plaque in her kitchen, an old beat up plaque that said, "The talent you have is God's gift to you. What you do with that talent is your gift to God." I know of no one in my industry that ever did more for his God than Frank Sinatra.
So one of the things that I thought was really interesting when you were talking about Frank Sinatra in your book was that talking about like sort of where his magic came from, people's emotional connection to him was really, amazing. And so I know there was that you were mentioning about that he really knew how to express emotion, very real, raw emotion in his music, and that people could really connect and relate to that. And so can you tell some stories about his wisdom and how he lived his life that helped him be that kind of performer and connect with people that way?
Well, there's several things I'm glad you said. I'm going to make a couple notes here because I'm going to go off here. When I go off on a tangent, I have to, I have to make notes because I go all over the place here. But,
Okay.
because I get consciousness. First of all, why people, those who liked Frank Sinatra, those who liked his music, why they connected. His music was a soundtrack of their lives. People went steady to his music. When somebody loves you, it's no good unless she loves you all the way. They got married to his music, love and married. Love it. They got divorced to his music, sat in that bar alone. It's 2:45. There's no one in the place. They got remarried to his music. Love is lovelier the second time around. And his music was a soundtrack of their lives. And in the end, and now the end is near. And though I face that final curtain, my way. So that's why they so were attached to him, because his music became the soundtrack of their lives. I once said at a memorial for Frank that all of us who love Frank Sinatra and loved his music, we know that now that he's gone, we know that tomorrow the sun is going to shine. It's just not going to be as warm as it used to be, because his music was where we went, even to this day. When I got knocked down and rejected, that's life. That's what all the people say. You're riding high in April, shot down in May. If Frank heard me do that, sometimes I'd be in my dressing room getting ready for the show, and I'm not a singer. I sang in the choir when I was a little boy, and I'd be in my dressing room. I might be singing. He'd open the door and he'd just look at me. He'd just stare at me. Wouldn't say a word. Basically, you're singing. So, but his music was a soundtrack of our lives. What people didn't realize the gift he had. Most people forget what a brilliant actor he was. He won the Academy Award in a movie From Here to Eternity. What about The Man with the Golden Arm? What about The Manchurian Candidate? What about a movie called Suddenly? This was a brilliant actor. One night, sitting around at his compound in Rancho Mirage with all these wonderful actors, the women had all gone to bed, and there was Clint Eastwood, and there was Robert Wagner, there was Jack Lemmon, Kirk Douglas, Gregory Peck, all of them sitting around. They were talking about film and acting and directing, and I'm fascinated being in this group, because these were people I saw in the movies in Harvey, Illinois when I was a little boy. But they're talking about acting and directing, and I noticed they were showing great reverence to Frank Sinatra. And I was curious, because in Hollywood, everybody talks about who they studied with, Strasberg or Stella Adler. They all talk about who they studied with. And I was just wondering who Frank, I said to Frank, did you study acting? And Gregory Peck grabbed my arm before Frank could speak. He said, acting lessons would have ruined him. He was a diamond in the rough that you didn't fool with. So when you gave Frank a song, to him, it was a script. What did the writer feel the night the writer took pen in hand? And he would immerse himself in that lyric and become that lonely guy in a bar whose woman left him, and he's never going to find love again. And you felt that. You felt that emotion. That was his gift. He knew. He would sometimes get a song before he sang it in the recording studio, and all day long he would walk around reciting that song as a poem. When all the songs are out of tune, and all the rhymes ring so untrue, then you will be my music. He would say that over and over like a poem, and then he'd go sing it. When all the songs are out of tune, and all the rhymes ring so untrue, and he was so special, so unique. There'll never be another Frank Sinatra. Now, one day we're coming out of the Waldorf Astoria in New York City, And we were on our way to a gig. It was in the evening. We were rushing to the limousine. We went out the back way because if Frank went out the front, he had got mobbed. Security was rushing us to the limousine, and a woman jumped out of the doorway. The doorman told me she'd been hiding there for 5 hours. And she started screaming, "Mr. Sinatra, please, Mr. Sinatra, please, Mr. Sinatra." And he was getting in the limo, and he turned around. The security was holding the woman back. And he walked back to her and he said, "What is it? What is it, man?" She said, "My husband is home ill. He's terribly, terribly ill. If I could get an autograph from you, it would mean the world to him." He said, "Sure." And he's signing the autograph. She said, "Oh, what beautiful cufflinks." They were a couple $1,000 cufflinks. They were very, very expensive. I know where he got them at. She said, "What beautiful cufflinks." He said, "Thank you." He finished the autograph, handed it to her, and he took the cufflinks off and he said, "Give these to your husband." She said, "Oh, no, 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 I don't want them. I was just admiring them." He said, "No, I want you to give these to your husband." Now we get in the car and I say, "Frank, that was beautiful. But why did you do that?" He said, "Tommy, if you possess something that you can't give away, then you don't possess it. It possesses you." I said, "Whoa, whoa, that was." And he said, Aristotle Onassis, who had billions of dollars and mansions and yachts and private jets, the second he died, that transferred. He was only using it. Nothing we have is ours, Tommy. You're only using it. And he not only talked that talk, he walked that talk. You know, that was other lessons. There were many other, excuse me, excuse me, many other lessons that he taught me about show business and about life. He was a special human being. Was he a saint? No, but he did some saintly things in his life. You know, but he made some mistakes, and but
Yeah,
he,
it seems to me like he really wanted to have those opportunities to give to people when he could, and to use what he had and his talent and his position to help people if possible.
more than you'll ever know, because he didn't want people to know, and
Mhm.
he wanted, did not want anyone to know about this. You know, I gave it one time. He got an award, and but I talked and I said about him. I said, my mother had a plaque in her kitchen, an old beat up plaque that said, "The talent you have is God's gift to you. What you do with that talent is your gift to God." And I said, Frank Sinatra sang his songs and millions of dollars were raised, and he built Protestant orphanages, and he's not Protestant. He sang his songs and millions of dollars were raised, and he built Jewish temples, and he's not Jewish. He sang his songs and millions of dollars were raised, and thousands of African American children went to college, and he's not African American. If the talent you have is God's gift to you, but what you do with that talent is your gift to God. I know of no one in my industry that ever did more for his God than Frank Sinatra.
Mhm. Yeah. Amazing. And it seems to me like he really knew how to live life about possibility. He was creating his life. He wasn't controlled by fear. And I think a lot of people when they don't give to others, or they don't honor their own talents and give them to the world, it's from fear. They're afraid they're going to fail or be heartbroken or ashamed or humiliated or something like that. And it sounds to me like his focus was really about what he could do.
Well, also, was he, when you watched him before he went out in front of 20,000 people, he was pacing.
Mhm.
He was, you know, he got nervous before a show. You
Mhm.
know, 40,000 people in Hawaii. He once appeared in front of 180,000 people in Brazil, the only male single artist that ever, rock groups have done that, but not a solo singer. You know, he was an amazing talent, but was he fearful? But he faced his fears. He never ran from his fears. And when we go toward our fears, they become a little bit less than what they were. It's only when you run from your fear that it gets greater and greater and greater. You know,
Mhm.
I used to, I tell young people that want to speak in front of an audience, if I had to get up in front of an audience when I first started out on a Friday, on Monday, I was already sweating it. I was at home, you know. Now, what I learned was the power of your subconscious mind, whatever the mind can see and believe, it will achieve. I started to see myself out there, and I tell young comedians this all the time. You know, what you do when public speaking, when you're new at it and you got to speak, you start thinking of all the negative things that could happen. Well, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if I forget? And what if I did? Now, when you do that, you start thinking of failure. your heart starts to pound, your hands start to sweat. Why? The subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between truth or fiction. It only knows what you program into it by images.
Mm-hmm.
So it reacts to the image you program into it. So if you see yourself up there failing, all of a sudden your heart's pounding, your hands sweating, because your subconscious mind said, oh, I see you're failing. So I tell young students all the time, cancel that. See yourself out there having the time of your life, enjoying it. People are laughing. They're smiling at you. You're smiling at them. You're really having fun. You're having fun with this talk you're going to give. See it. See the people reacting positively to it. Because the subconscious mind said, "Oh, that's where you want me to go." So that's how when I would walk out in front of audiences, I would always pretend when that light hits me, a calm is going to come over me. When I get to that podium or that lectern, or when I get to my microphone as a comedian, when I get to a calm, it's going to come over me. I saw that, I felt that, and I believe that. Today I'm a very relaxed performer. I can hardly wait to get out there sometimes. But again, facing your fears. You see, all the prayers in the world are not worth a penny unless you have action. You must have action. There's a great old joke that this guy, Max or whatever his name was, Max kept saying, God, please let me win the lottery. God, please let me win the lottery. And the week went by, he didn't win. Next week, he's on his knees. God, please let me win the lottery, please. And the next week, he didn't win. And next week, please, God, please let me win the lottery. And a voice from heaven said, Max, meet me halfway, buy a ticket.
I love that. Yeah.
It's an old, but the point is, you've got to take. Okay, God will answer your prayers, but you've got to go. You can't lay in bed and say, "I'm waiting for someone to knock on my door and bring it to me." You got to,
Of
the
course.
Lord helps those who help themselves. Remember that line? The Lord helps those who help themselves. Got to take action.
Yeah.
I give a thing here that I want to repeat to you here. I do sometimes. At the end of a class, I'll say to them, look, before this is over, I'm going to give you the secret. Everybody's looking for the secret. I'm going to give it to you at the end of this talk that I'm giving you. And at the end, I say, and here's the secret. The secret is you. You're the secret.
Mm-hmm.
This is your vehicle. You can do whatever you can do whatever you want with this. This is your vehicle. You're the secret. And you have to work on these. And you exercise physically. If I say to a class, I want you to get physically fit. They all say, I know how to do that. One word, exercise. I say, okay, I want you to get mentally fit. And they stare at me. It's the same thing. One word, exercise. Exercise the mind the way you exercise the body.
Mm-hmm.
I I was in Cedars-Sinai Hospital last late August, September with COVID. And I thought that I had COVID for 14 days and it wasn't getting better. It went into viral pneumonia. I'm laying at Cedars-Sinai Hospital the first day, and I, Robbie, am sick. And I've been through some tough things in my life, but I've never felt that bad. And I'm laying there, and temperature and everything. And I wasn't in ventilation or anything like that, or a ventilator, but I'm laying there, and the nurse, I'm in a quarantine room. Nurses can come in, but they have to leave. And the second day, I'm not feeling better. And I said, you know what? I can't just lay here. I couldn't read or watch TV. I couldn't concentrate. I said, I can't just lay here. I got up and I walked to the door, and I'd walk all the way to the bathroom. Then I'd walk to the door and the bathroom, 25 steps each way. I did that 10 times a day. And when I got into the bathroom after my walk was completed, I looked in the mirror and I had 5 mantras that I would say, and I said it each one 5 times. I said, day by day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. And I would put the emphasis on a different word, as an actor would do. I'd say, day by day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. And I'd say, day by day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. Day by day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. I say that 5 times. I'd say, I feel happy, I feel healthy, I feel terrific 5 times. I'd say, my mind is constantly in tune with the positive. It is bright, cheerful, enthusiastic, and full of good, positive thoughts and ideas. I'd say that 5 times. I had 5 of those mantras. So I felt like I was fighting back physically and mentally, that I was fighting back, because, and then I'll tell you what, so I tell the class that you're the secret, you're the secret. And I say, here's the vowels I want you to remember: A, E, I, O, U. Okay, A, E, I, O, U. A, action. Take immediate action. Every 1,000-mile journey begins with the first step. That's A. E, enthusiasm. Be enthusiastic about any endeavor. Emerson said, nothing can be achieved without enthusiasm. Be enthusiastic. I inspire. Inspire others to become all they can be. Small people belittle your ambitions. Successful people want you to be successful also. You know, so inspire. Oh, outlaw. Outlaw negative thoughts that can weaken you. Outlaw, wisdom is avoiding all the thoughts that can weaken you. I want to repeat that. Wisdom is avoiding all the thoughts that can weaken you. You know the thoughts that weaken you. You know the past rejections, the heartaches, the failures. When you think about those thoughts, they can weaken you. So wisdom is avoiding all the thoughts that can weaken you. And you be unwilling. Once you set a goal, if it's a noble endeavor, then be unwilling to give up your dream, especially when the going gets tough. So that's AEIOU.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, here's the greatest thing that can ever happen to a human being is to find the work that you love. You know, I wrote a poem. Well, it's in the book. You read the book. It's called "The Sound of Laughter." I'm not going to do it for you, but in the end, I say, that find the work that you love, because that's really the key. If you find the work that you love, if what you do in life is a service to humanity, service to humanity is the greatest work of life. If you what you do makes people feel better for having had your service. As a comedian, I tell young comedians all the time, do you know you're in the greatest profession on the planet? Think about what I'm about to tell you. The number one fear, the insurance companies around the world did a survey for 8 years of the 10 fears of man. Death was fourth. Pain was second. Getting up in front of an audience was the number one fear of mankind. If you can get up in front of an audience and you can talk about being a house painter for an hour, or being a hypnotist for an hour, or being a lawyer, you're in less than 1% of the population of the world. If you can get up and make people laugh for 1 hour, you're in less than 1/1,000,000th of 1% of the population of the world. Do you know how lucky you are? Do you know how fortunate you are that you found this profession? Don't tarnish that by destroying, your brain with alcohol and drugs and what have you, because you have this great gift. Laughter is healing. That's not a theory anymore. That's not a theory. Laughter is healing. We've always known that laughter is a psychological deterrent. That the brain can't think of two thoughts at the same time. So if you're watching a comedian perform, or you're listening to a comedy record and you're laughing, you're not, it's a psychological deterrent, laughter. We know that. But now we know that laughter is physiologically therapeutic, because of Norman Cousins, the editor of Saturday Review, many years ago had a physical illness, a heart ailment, that doctors told him that it was stress that brought it on, and that he didn't have long to live. He laid in the hospital and he thought, negative input, stress made me ill, then positive input could make me well. So he checked out of the hospital, and he'd only watch I Love Lucy reruns, Candid Camera, Three Stooges, Marx Brothers. He would only listen to comedy albums. He didn't watch the evening news. He didn't pick up the papers. He just watched funny things. He laughed himself back to health. He lived 27 years after the doctors told him he was going to die. Because of him, UCLA did a lot of research on what happens to the human body when you laugh. That when you laugh heartily, and sometimes when you laugh so hard, and after the laugh, and the sense of well-being comes over you. You have tears in your eyes, and the sense of well-being comes over you. Your body's gone through an actual chemical change. That when you have a hearty laugh, UCLA found that endorphins are released from the brain into the bloodstream, chemicals. So laughter is not only psychologically a deterrent, it's physiologically therapeutic. So comedians are physicians of the soul. So if you want to call me Dr. Dreesen, it's okay with me, Robbie.
All right, Dr. Dreesen.
My point of that is how important laughter is in life.
Yeah.
And by the way, the greatest gift that God can bestow upon a human being, Robbie, is a sense of humor. And by my humble definition, a sense of humor is not when you have the ability to laugh at others' shortcomings and misfortunes. It's when you have the ability to laugh at your own. That you're the butt of the joke. It's okay to laugh at yourself. It's great to teach your children a sense of humor. A sense of humor, how do you teach children that? When you do something stupid and dumb, you went to the grocery store and you went to reach up for a can of peas and you lost your balance and they all fell on top of you and your dress went over your head or whatever, and you tell the kids that. Guess what dumb thing I did today? They laugh. because they say it's okay to laugh at yourself.
Yeah.
That's the greatest gift. I think if psychiatrists would probably tell us the number one problem with most of their patients is we take ourselves too serious.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. We have tons of clients who have that challenge, and it can totally sabotage them getting their goal because they'll fixate on the one thing that went wrong instead of laughing it off and learning from it and refocusing. So, yes, I'm with you.
Well, it's real easy to go into the woe is me, to become the victim. I teach all children. I teach all children in schools and stuff. I don't care what your ethnicity, what your religion is. You are not a victim. You're a victor. You're not a victim. Don't let anybody ever put you in that victim mode. See, that victim is, oh, what a safe place. See, it's not my fault. Both my parents are alcoholic. I lived in a shack. 5 of us slept in one bed at one time. We had no bathtub, no shower, no hot water. So if I end up in prison or a failure, it's not my fault. See, I was a victim of all these poor things. Bull. Bull. You're a victor. Don't let them. When you're a victim, it's safe there. You don't have to go out there and face the reality. You don't have to go out there and face your fears. Stay in that victim mode, and it's safe. But then you're not living life to its fullest
That's
if you
right.
don't.
And how different our world would be if people were raised to, and our culture supported people being that way. I think it's very unfortunate that the culture is going in the direction of blaming and people being victims and rewarded for that, for their own good.
Yeah, I played sports all my life, and I still do. I still compete in some stuff. But for all of us to get trophies was the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. You have to learn that some of us come up short, and some of us are more gifted. There were athletes far more gifted than me, and I was envious of them sometimes because they could run faster and throw harder and hit harder. But that's life, isn't it?
Yeah, and
That's life.
it gives you something to reach for. It would be kind of boring if you were the best at everything all the time.
Something I tell my class, and you may cut this out or you may keep this in, but I hope you keep it in. I was teaching and talking to an all-male class a while back, and I was having fun with them, telling jokes and everything, and having fun with. But then at that time, there was a guy in all the newspapers that he was 32 years old, and his parents, it took him 8 years to get him out of the house. He would not leave the house. 8 years, and they finally got a court order to get him out of the house. He was 32 years old. He wouldn't leave his parents. They got a court order, and it was in the news, so I was making jokes about it. And I said to the kids, to the young guys, I said, how long do you think you should stay with your parents? And one boy raised his hand. He said, till we're 50 or 60 if we want to. And I said, really? And some of the other kids laughed. And I said, how many others think of that? I said, no, wait. I said, why do you say that? I said to him. He said, because we didn't ask to be here. We didn't ask to be here. And I said, how many of you out there believe that? And some of the kids raised their hands. I said, you didn't ask to be here? I don't want to give you a biology lesson. I said, but when the male and the female make love, from the male comes 5 million seeds. Did you know that? 2.5 million die instantly. The other millions die along the way. And soon there's only 100,000 seeds left. And then there's 50,000. Then there's 100 seeds left. There's only 5 seeds left. 4, 3, 2, 1. You. Don't ever tell me you didn't ask to be here. You fought to be here. I said, I'm in a room full of winners. Applaud yourselves. You all won. And they all applauded and everything. I said, you're a winner. You were born a winner. You're not a victim. You were born a winner. Now, what are you going to do about
Awesome. I love that. Yeah.
it?
And it's amazing how all these stories you're telling, if you grab people at just the right time, it can change their whole view of everything.
Yeah. Well, I found that when I was knocked to my knees, there was only one other thing to do is pray. And, so when you're on your knees, what else are you going to do? But I mean, I really do believe that don't give up. I mean, especially if you have a noble endeavor, you don't give up. You find out how other people got through what you're going through. You just it's your blink of an eye on this planet, and have fun with it. Have fun with the failures. Have fun. Some of the biggest, best jokes I've ever written are about things that I failed.
And knowing that it's just a blink of an eye makes it a lot easier to have a sense of humor because you realize it's really not much in the grand scheme of things.
No, it's really not. It's all about. And to me, it's all about love. It's all about find the work that you love. And if you love, it's the most powerful thing on the planet. If you love your work, how much of a joy it is to go to work every day. Love your family, being around your family. It isn't about all the awards you receive, all the money you accumulated, all the property you own. Doesn't mean anything in the end. It's all about memories. It's all about, make some good. In the end, all you'll have is memories. Make some real good ones.
Mm-hmm.
Make some memories.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you. That you shared with us so many great and inspiring stories and wisdom, and it's so interesting to me how clearly you've studied some hypnosis, because a lot of the way that you're looking at things and the way you're interacting with life very much reflects what we teach our clients when we hypnotize them. So it's pretty amazing to just hear this amazing life experience you have combined with this way of looking at things.
Yeah, well, and years ago, and I know you're ready to wrap up here, but I'm with you for as long as you want me. But years ago, I was on a TV show, ABC show, with two women. They wrote a book called "Healing the Child Within," and I found it fascinating. And I read the book, and it basically was saying that inside all of us is this child, little Robbie. And whenever we feel anxiety or fear, it's usually in the stomach, right? Or outward. You see older people, they go into a fetal position and they rock. They're rocking that child within them that's full of fear. There's a child inside all of us. And the book basically, and I'm paraphrasing, but it basically said that, like, I have little Robbie. Sometimes if you're going through fears, you think, well, adult Robbie, I'm not afraid of this. I've had other challenges in my life and I faced them, and I'm going to do something. The child in you is fearful because a child doesn't really trust adults because adults lied to her. Adults, maybe sometimes hit her or lied to her or did something. So little Robbie doesn't trust adults, and she doesn't really trust adult Robbie because you got in some relationships that maybe she thought, okay, now we're going to be taken care of, but then you left that relationship. Now little Robbie is fearful. So what you have to learn, is whenever I used to hear, you cannot love another till you learn to love yourself. I always thought that was kind of narcissistic. I mean, what do you mean? What do you stand in front of the mirror after you get out of the shower and say, I love you? That's what I realized. Loving yourself is healing the child within. That you take little Robbie out and, you set her in front of you and say, look, I know you and I love you. I know you for what. First of all, let me digress. What is the number one fear of all children? Abandonment.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, what if our parents were not here? When you're 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 years old, that's terrifying to think that one day you wouldn't be without your mom and dad. They're like the gods of your universe. So abandonment. So what you take this child out to assure them, you say, little Robbie, I know you for what you are. You're a beautiful little girl and I love you and I will never leave you. Grandparents are going to pass away and leave us. Parents are going to pass away. Lovers, husbands maybe might leave us, but I will never leave you because I love you and I know you for what you are. You're a sweet, loving little child. And trust me, I will never leave you. When you can assure that child within, you're healing that child within, that's when you can start to learn to love the universe and love yourself. Those fears, realize those fears are coming from the child in you. The adult in you is going to handle this.
Mm-hmm.
There were times when I was early and going out on stage, little Tommy was scared to death. What if you don't do well? What if they don't like you? What if they boo you? What if, and I'd say, well, calm down, little Tommy. I'm going to handle this from here. Adult Tommy's going to take over from here. But when I get out there and it's going good, I want you to come out and have some fun with me. Let the child in you come out.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a great lesson.
Yeah, so you're integrating the child and the adult together when you're really shining and connecting and giving to the audience.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I always say the comedian is. You remember the fable about the emperor and his clothing?
Mm-hmm.
The emperor, that
Yep.
he was told by the tailors that you have the finest wardrobe. Only a fool can't see this. Well, the king didn't want to admit that he was. He was a fool. So, oh yes, it looks very nice. Now he's going to show this wardrobe to the entire kingdom, and people are lining the streets, and he's walking down the street with no clothes on, and they're saying, "Oh, I see it. Oh yeah, that's a beautiful wardrobe." And finally, a little boy said, "He doesn't have any clothes on." And they said, "Did you hear what that child said?" And he said, the little boy said, "He doesn't have any clothes." And finally, an adult said, "You know something? I don't see any clothes either." And before you know it, they all get aware. That's who the comedian is, that child who exposes those who try to, through comedy, through humor.
Right. They're willing to take that risk and say it like it is and get people to actually laugh.
Well, they used to say to me that I wasn't a political comedian. I said I did 61 appearances on the Tonight Show, and you had to do a new 6 minutes every time you did the Tonight Show. You had to come up with new material. But I could do a political joke with fun, and the audience, and I could get a laugh, but they'd walk away thinking. And I'll give you an example. Years ago, there was a teacher. I was going on the Tonight Show, and a couple of days earlier in the paper, there was a teacher, a male who was gay, and he was out of the closet and said he was gay. This is back in the day when people didn't come out with that. But he was teaching math or something. But he was admitted he was gay. Well, a lot of the parents and stuff were trying to get him out of the school system because they felt that he's gay. He may influence their heterosexual children to be gay. And I thought that's the most absurd thing I've ever heard of. Because if that's true, then why couldn't a heterosexual teacher, influence a gay kid not to be gay? I mean, just by his teaching math. It was so absurd. So I went on the Tonight Show and I said, one of my lines was that night, I said, I moved out here and I'm real concerned about the school systems out here because I found out all the teachers are heterosexual and I've got a son who's gay. Now the audience didn't quite get it, but Johnny Carson laughed because he got it. Now I don't have a son who's gay, but I was just making that point politically,
Yeah.
and so you can do it. I did a lot of other things like that,
Yeah, you can get away with a lot.
Yeah.
By doing it that way. Yeah.
Meanwhile, people are on their way home saying, "Well, was that funny?" And something? That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Many a truth is said in jest.
For sure. Yeah. Amazing. So why don't you share with people how they can access your book and learn more about your services? You do corporate events and trainings and you help people in schools. And so just share how people can get in touch with you and the kinds of things you can offer.
Obviously, again, I'm a stand-up comedian, first, last, and always. You can go to my website, tomdreesen.com. Of course, that's D-R-E-E-S-E-N. Everybody spells my name wrong. They put two S's in there, but it's only got one. D-R-E-E-S-E-N, tomdreesen.com. Or you can go to Amazon and get my book, Still Standing, My Journey from Streets and Saloons to the Stage and Sinatra, at Amazon or at Barnes & Noble stores. But Amazon, people are telling me they're ordering it, and pat myself on the back, forgive me, but I've got over 125-star reviews on my book now on Amazon. People are enjoying it. I'm an avid reader, so I like to read books, and nothing I like better than find a page turner. And people are saying that about my book, that it was a page turner, because I've read books sometimes in 3 weeks and sometimes in 2 nights. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I read your entire book and I really enjoyed it. There were so many interesting moments and you are a really excellent storyteller. So I would strongly recommend people get your book and enjoy reading it. Join us for next week's podcast, where hypnotist Trisha Fuller will teach us about how hypnosis can help with managing pain and how hypnosis helps with childbirth. And if you're wanting to discover more about how hypnosis training can help you, go to hypnosistrainingcanada.com and schedule your free consultation. Remember to click the button to subscribe, share this podcast with a friend, and please leave us a review so you can help others to benefit from this podcast too. Until next week.
You've been listening to The Hypnosis Show with Robbie Spear Miller. Tune in next time to learn more about how you can change your life with hypnosis. And if you are interested in learning more about training opportunities, go to hypnosistrainingcanada.com and schedule a free consultation.